Next generation meteorologist Joe Shaka here with the tropical update for September 3rd, 2022. And we have a lot to talk about today. We're not going to spend much time with Danielle, really no time with Danielle, since this is not going to really be impacting land and or it's not so much part of the hype. I don't want to say hype, but certainly the discussion on various social media platforms. But today we're going to be looking at Earl and why I do highly believe, not just believing, but actually the meteorology behind it, why Earl is not going to be a threat to the East Coast and why it's going to stay out at sea. And you'll see that evidence in today's update. MJO, the European, and the null phase going to try to loop back around maybe towards phase 8, 1, 2, maybe towards mid and late month. The JMA, same kind of thing, but still, again, mainly in the null phase for the next 2 weeks. Again, you can see some members trying to get it on to phase 2, so there's probably going to be some additional development within the tropics, as would be expected, mid and late September. And you can see phase 2 and phase 3 there, so maybe there'll be a couple more features that come out of the MDR during that time frame. Now let's dig into Earl. Let's do this. Oh man, I've been tracking this thing for 7-8 days, and I'm like, this thing gonna develop. I did this last Saturday, the 27th. I'm like, is this thing gonna make it? Oh, it made it. It made it, and that's the point we have to think about going forward. Is other systems might be coming out of the MDR, but they're not strong, or they don't really develop until they're coming out of the MDR, or completely north of 20 north or even north of 30 north, and you're going to see that with Earl here. I think it's going to peak between 30 and 40, if not even a little bit, 45 north, but it's certainly not going to be, and certainly was not, a intense hurricane in the tropics, and is not going to be looking like Danielle way up here over waters that are over 5-6 C above normal, and you can see obviously Danielle is now a hurricane and may make a run at a major over the next couple of days as she slowly drifts off to the north and east. But you can see the waters overall, warmer than normal. MDR warmer than normal. The East Coast, the North Atlantic well above normal. So certainly the water temperatures are not hindering development. The season has been touched. Tropospheric, atmospheric, tropical troughs that have been inhibiting development, especially in the MDR. And there's what we like to call wave break. There hasn't really been a big ridge here at 500 millibars over the basin. It's been a lot of troughingness and a lot of wind shear, which has cut these storms down. But maybe this pattern will change later in September into October. We'll see. But you can see definitely the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean, MDR, East Coast, North Atlantic, all warmer than normal, and a little bit of cooling here in the subtropics, which is, I think, part of definitely playing into this wave breaking pattern that we have been in. So here are the actual ocean temperatures. You can see here the 26-degree line pretty much from the Delmarva off easterly and then builds up a little bit north, probably 41, 42 north. This is where Danielle is, obviously getting her energy from the ocean. You can see that 26 sea line, probably up to 43 north here, and then it slowly tails back around through here. But all of this over 80-degree water, 80 to 88-degree water respectively, and the warmest water found here in the northeast Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast coast. You can see here probably 29, if not even some 30 C showing up in places. So again, mid and upper 80s definitely in spots in this part of the basin. So plenty of energy for a storm to develop and thrive. Now we're taking a look at the maximum potential cyclone energy. And you can see that the pressure, certainly if the maximum potential lowest pressure, if everything is favorable, you can certainly see major hurricane supported anywhere really, and that again shows up quite nicely here in the categorical zone. Anything here in this lighter shading of pink is fair game for a major hurricane. So that's pretty much the entire basin, literally. And again, Danielle being up here, she's probably in the 3 and 4 roughly. So that is, you can definitely see why Danielle is thriving at such a high latitude. Now the JMA, the upward motion pattern, this is week 1. You can see here the upward motion in blue. You can see here where Earl is. You can see how the JMA is taking Earl out with the precipitation. Now, why Earl is going to be going out? We're going to look at a lot of steering today, a lot of 500 millibar charts, because that is what drives most tropical, if not all tropical cyclones is the mid and upper levels, depending on how strong they get. Now, Earl, up until this point, was such a weak system, it was being driven westward by the 850, 925 millibar flow, which is how it was able to get as far as west of it did. Now, if Earl became a hurricane or even a major hurricane in the MDR, Earl had a very strong chance of recurring much farther to the east, but because it remained weak, it was able to slide underneath the 500 millibar ridging, pattern ridging, whatever was going on in the central Atlantic over the past week or so. So it was able to make it into the western part of the basin, the southwest Atlantic. But you can see here, this upcoming week, you can see the enhanced precipitation anomalies as the JMA thinks Earl is going to pass probably south and east of Bermuda. Now let's look at this 500 millibar chart. Now see this? Ridging over Canada. We have a trough in the Gulf of Mexico, which may get another system, believe it or not, going in the Gulf of Mexico this upcoming week. Something we'll have to watch because there's going to be multiple things pulling on Earl. And what they are is, first of all, it's going to be this trough over the central western Atlantic. You're going to have this trough here in the southeast and northern Gulf of Mexico, and then maybe some additional troughing coming in out of Canada that slides through the northwest Atlantic, which will help reinforce this trough in about 8 to 10 days. So there's a lot of troughing that's coming along, and because there's no ridging, Earl is just able to slide on out because these tropical cyclones, they like to follow the path of least resistance, and where there's troughs, there's least resistance in the atmosphere, so there it makes an escape route for Earl. And there you can see week 2, Earl curling very nicely up into the North Atlantic here, so you can see that pattern. You can see the same kind of thing with that trough over the Northern Atlantic. Now, we're going to do some model comparison. The GFS versus the European. This is valid Thursday, September 8th. Here we go. Trough over the southeast, northern Gulf of Mexico. Large-scale troughing over the western Atlantic. Trough coming out of Canada. So this is the GFS, Thursday. European, looking a little different. GFS, you can see where Earl is going to be here in the high fields. You can see the closed contour here. Some of the squiggly contours here at 585. So Earl is somewhere in this area from the GFS ensemble. European looks like this. What do we have? Quite a different look. And clearly you can see this ridge is stronger building eastward. This trough is still here. This trough here is more concentrated further north and east. And Earl is here also a little bit slower moving too on the European than on the GFS up. So we're going to have troughs we're going to have to figure out, how fast Earl is moving, how strong it is. So there's going to be multiple things that are going to be influencing the track of Earl as the week goes on. Europe GFS next Saturday, September 10th. Here's the GFS. You can start to see this ridge building in the Atlantic. Trough here over the northern Gulf of Mexico, over the southeast. Some troughing coming out of Canada, and looks like some neutral heights here in the northern Atlantic with the ridging further north. GFS ensemble, European. Now that is a big difference by next Saturday. Mainly, the biggest difference is over the northeast and southeast Canada. And also, I guess you could say a little bit here off the southeast coast, but the biggest difference here is what's going over the northeast and southeast Canada. GFS, European. And Earl is somewhere here south of Bermuda on this particular model run. So you can see what that looks like there. Now, day 10, GFS, European. Again, bigger change, more ridging on the European. Over southeast Canada, over the northern part of the United States, a little bit more troughing here. So you can see GFS, European. And Earl is somewhere around here, and the spread by day 10 is quite huge. But this trough, even if the GFS doesn't see a trough, kind of like you can see like how there's a little bit of ridging here, but the GFS is so quick with moving Earl that it's gone completely by day 10. But now just focusing a little bit more on the European, you can see this trough still sitting out here, and you can see this ridge is not over here that blocks it. So even if Earl is anywhere along the East Coast, you can see that it too has an escape route. Unless Earl is so far west and south, like way over here, it's going to be pretty difficult to not have this trough catch it and take it out. And you can see that here quite nicely. This is the European ensemble. You can clearly see the huge range and outcomes by day 10. Whether this thing is here, it's up in southeast Canada, it's crawling through the Bahamas still, or this thing is taken off the northeast and North Atlantic. You could see just the massive spread there is here with Earl and day 10. Really, the spread begins in about 5 days of whether it's coming into the northern Bahamas or whether it's a south, if not even southeast of Bermuda by that time. So the point is, huge spread within the models. The GFS Ensemble, you can see more concentrated and more on the agreement of this thing going well south and east, mainly Bermuda and often to the northeast Atlantic. So we have a lot to look at as the week goes on. Here's the European tropical storm probabilities. You can see here, this is day 5, day 7, day 9. You can definitely see by day 9, the spread is quite large. And then here by day 11, so roughly day 10, 11, you can see the spread is quite huge from just south of New England off the East Coast to possibly as far as being in the North Atlantic. So several, probably at least a 2,000-mile range and outcomes here. And the longer term, so certainly a challenging forecast. But again, with the evidence that I showed you there with the troughing pattern and this whole 500 pattern that's setting up, I definitely highly forecast this thing to not be a threat to the East Coast, but possibly the only land threat that could be impacted, certainly in the near term, is the island of Bermuda. And finally, there is the hurricane probability. And again, that can show up a little bit nicer in the ensembles. There's a cluster here, and there's a little bit of clusters, all in this entire range. So definitely Earl going to be one to watch, but I'm, again, not worried at all about this being a threat to the East Coast. And again, only place that needs to watch is Bermuda. But however, nothing is guaranteed until it's going out. So we'll see what happens as the week goes on. That's it for now, and thank you for watching.